Okay, this is the upgrade tutorial for the NSDM Map Tools campaign, part 1, which is how to alter a current campaign file with new macros and properties that you need to import. You could also save an entirely new campaign file and export your old maps, then re-import them, but we'll be using the first method here where we just alter the properties. So first, I've already downloaded the zip file and extracted it to my Map Tools directory. So I'll go to Edit, Campaign Properties. I could change any of these tabs by importing or exporting a property file. We're going to focus on the States tab. And what happened is that some of these flags did not have the nationality group set. So by re-importing the file I saved, which I placed in my Map Tools directory, that will overwrite those flags and fix that problem. And that's all we need to do there. So click OK. For macros, if you do not have any personal macros you added, you can just right-click and clear the panel to remove everything. Then you can right-click again, import macro set, and here's the macro set that we unzipped to our Map Tools directory. That will add everything back in, fixing any bugs or errors I left from the previous macros, which we'll get to in a minute. So if you right-click and edit, what you do need to do when you use this method is to set the hotkeys back. So let's just right-click on the macro, go to Edit, go to the hotkey window in the top right, and set them to F2 through F6 in order. And one of the problems that these new versions of the macros fix was that when you created a Cuban token, it was accidentally setting them to be owned by China. That was only a problem that was occurring with Cuba. All the other nations were fine. So what we need to do is we've gone to our Cuba map, we've selected all of our units, and if we scroll down, there's an extra macro I added called Cuba Owner Fix. And with all of our units selected, we just click to run it. And it checked if a token had the Cuban flag, and if it did, it set it to use Cuba ownership instead of China ownership, and it ignored all the other tokens. If we had another map of Cuba or another map with Cuban units on it, we would have to switch maps and do that again. Since we don't, we can just right-click and delete that macro because we'll never use it again because the bug is fixed in the current version. And these are some of the changes we made to the macros. For F2 and F3, if you go to status, there's now an option to show or hide the health bar. So we'll set that to hide, and the health bar just disappeared. Then for F5, health bar, I can select multiple units and either show or hide all of their bars. If I leave it on NA, it will leave the health bar values at whatever they were for the specific units. If I enter a new number in, it will set all units to that value. So now they all have health bars and they're all at 100. F6 is stealth visibility. So if I set a unit to stealth, the owner on here is the one that will actually have the flag. So I'll set it to USSR because I can. And then the observers are the units who can actually see that token in addition to the owner. And how it does that is it basically just sets them as additional owners but without the flag. So if I set it like that, those all change to USSR tokens. And if I right-click and go to Edit, they're all listed as owners here. One of the things you have to look out for is that if you do F2 and recreate a token, The problem here is that if I set it to stealth and set it to USSR, that F2 always sets only a single owner. So does F3. If I go back to edit ownership, now it's back to just being the USSR. So you have to look out for that if you're setting multiple owners. But in general, you have to use a macro like F6 or F2 to set an owner at all, because in here, right now it only shows the owners that are set on the token or the players who are currently logged in. If you wanted to add a player who is not logged in right now, you have to do that through the macro. There's no way to do it through this window. Which is why we'll go back, leave it unvisible, and owner Britain. And using the macro, it will add owners who aren't currently logged in. And that should be everything for part 1 of the tutorial. I'll record part 2 later, but I wanted to get this out ahead of time so that you'd be able to see the upgrades I finished. And thank you for watching, and signing off.